Welcome to our deep dive into the world of biometric surveillance. I'm sure you guys are at least a little familiar with it already. I mean, most of you probably use like Face ID to unlock your phones. But this tech, it goes way beyond just that. We're talking about a future where your walk, your voice, even like your heartbeat could be used to identify you and track you.
Kind of creepy, right?
Yeah, it sounds like something out of like a dystopian sci-fi movie, but
Yeah.
it's closer than you think. So for this deep dive, we've got an excerpt from a blog called Dmitrii Gorbatenko LogBook. And it's this piece specifically about the rise of this tech.
Yeah, the rise of biometric surveillance.
Right. And we're going to be unpacking what it means for you, like your privacy, your security, even like the future of freedom itself. So,
Big stuff.
yeah. So let's jump right in.
You know, it's interesting how surveillance has evolved over time, right? We've come a long way from the days of the panopticon. That old prison design where a single guard could theoretically observe all the inmates.
Right. Just by their architecture.
Yeah, the architecture itself was a tool of surveillance. And then came CCTV cameras, which really changed how we think about public spaces. Now we're talking about identifying you by how you walk. It's not just what you look like anymore.
Yeah.
It's your whole being that's being tracked.
That's kind of freaky. And this excerpt really digs into how cities are using this tech. It mentions smart cities.
Right.
These urban areas that use like sensors and data to manage all kinds of stuff like traffic flow and energy consumption.
Uh-huh.
But those same systems can be used to collect biometric data, basically making it harder and harder to just like move around anonymously. Think about all the information your city already collects about you, right? Traffic cameras, utility bills, even your online activity. Now add your unique biometric profile to that.
Yeah, it's a lot. This level of data collection. I mean, it's a serious game changer.
Yeah.
And as the blog points out, it raises some major ethical questions about privacy. Who controls all this biometric data?
Right.
What are they doing with it? I mean, are there any safeguards in place at all to prevent misuse?
Yeah, that's what I found so fascinating and honestly kind of unnerving about this piece. It talks about how facial recognition tech, for instance, has been shown to misidentify people of color and women more often than white men.
Hmm.
So if you're in one of those groups, this technology might not be so accurate or fair,
Yeah.
when it comes to identifying you.
Absolutely. And this problem of algorithmic bias is a huge concern.
Yeah.
Because if these systems are trained on biased data sets, they're just going to perpetuate those biases
Right.
and even amplify existing inequalities. And then what happens when this technology gets into the wrong hands?
Right. The excerpt mentions how authoritarian regimes could use biometric surveillance to stifle dissent.
Oh, yeah.
Track citizens basically create a society where people are just afraid to speak their minds because they're constantly being watched.
Yeah, they're always being monitored. They even talk about a chilling effect on free speech, people basically censoring themselves just out of fear.
That's a scary thought.
It is. It's that slippery slope argument. It's a chilling thought. Imagine a world where every move you make is tracked, analyzed, and potentially used against you. And let's not forget, this tech is constantly evolving.
Oh, yeah.
It's only getting more sophisticated and more powerful.
Yeah, it's not just about security cameras anymore. We're talking about a future where AI is integrated with biometrics, potentially leading to scenarios we haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah, things we haven't even imagined yet.
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of this deep dive. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Yeah, it feels like we're really stepping into uncharted territory with this stuff.
It does, doesn't it? And you know, it's not like a simple black and white issue. The excerpt, it even points out some potential benefits of this tech. Imagine like a world where criminals are caught way more easily, missing persons are found right away, and healthcare is like totally revolutionized through personalized biometric monitoring. It's kind of compelling.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like a world with almost no crime, lost kids are found right away. It sounds kind of utopian in a way.
Right.
But I guess the question is at what cost, right? Like, are we really willing to just give up our privacy for that level of security?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And there are no easy answers. It's a really delicate balancing act. And the excerpt really highlights the fact that AI is only going to make this technology even more powerful, more pervasive. Think about like deep fakes, those AI-generated videos where they can make anyone appear to say or do anything. Now imagine combining that with synthetic biometrics, the ability to create fake biometric profiles.
Whoa.
It really raises some unsettling questions about like the future of identity and trust.
Yeah, that's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. If you can't even trust what you see or hear, then how do you even know what's real? And what does that mean for things like evidence in criminal cases, or even just basic interpersonal trust.
Absolutely. And as this technology advances, those questions are only going to get more complex, more urgent.
Right.
So, what can we do about it? Do we just sit back and kind of let this technological wave just wash over us?
I hope not. The excerpt seems to suggest that we have more agency than we think. Like
Right.
it talks about the importance of awareness and education,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not like a tech expert. Just understanding the basics of how this stuff works is crucial.
Yeah.
After all, it affects all of us, whether we realize it or not.
It does. I totally agree. The more you know, the better equipped you are to make informed choices about your own privacy and security.
Right.
And even beyond like individual awareness, the excerpt calls for developing ethical frameworks and robust privacy laws to govern how we use this technology.
That makes sense. We need some kind of guardrails in place.
Hmm.
But who decides what those guardrails should be, and how do we even ensure that they're effective in actually protecting our rights in the face of constantly evolving technology?
Those are really crucial questions. And they're not just for like policymakers and tech companies to answer. This is a conversation we all need to be a part of. What kind of world do you want to live in? What limits would you put in place to protect your own privacy and freedom in a world of biometric surveillance?
It's a lot to unpack, but it's vital that we at least start having these conversations. Ignoring it won't make it go away. This excerpt makes it clear that the future of biometric surveillance, it isn't like predetermined.
Yeah.
It's being shaped right now by all of us.
Yeah, our choices matter.
Our choices matter.
Very
Okay,
much.
so we've talked about like all the potential downsides of biometric surveillance, but this excerpt also kind of paints a picture of what a world with like widespread use of this tech could look like. And it's not all bad.
Yeah, that's right. Imagine a world where crime is practically non-existent because every perpetrator can be easily identified and apprehended, where lost children are found like instantly, where healthcare is revolutionized through personalized, real-time biometric monitoring. Sounds pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, it does, almost like a utopia. But I'm guessing there's got to be a catch. There's always a trade-off, isn't there?
There is. In this like seemingly perfect world, privacy as we know it basically ceases to exist. Every move you make, every interaction you have, every facial expression, it's all recorded and analyzed. Think about the implications of that.
Yeah, that is a chilling thought. Who has access to all that data? What happens if it falls into the wrong hands? Or if the algorithms that are used to analyze it are flawed? Could we end up in a situation where people are unfairly targeted or discriminated against based on inaccurate or biased data?
Those are some of the critical questions we need to grapple with. This excerpt really challenges us to think deeply about the kind of future we want to create. Are we willing to sacrifice our privacy, our anonymity for the promise of safety and convenience? And if so, where do we draw the line?
Yeah, that's a tough question. No easy answers. It feels like we're at a crossroads, and the choices we make now will determine the kind of world we end up living in.
Exactly. This isn't just a technological issue, it's a societal one. We need to have these open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of biometric surveillance, and we need to engage with policymakers to ensure that appropriate safeguards are put in place.
Right. So what can we do as individuals? The excerpt talks about awareness and education, but what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, for starters, just simply being aware of how this technology is being used and its potential implications is a huge first step. You can start by learning more about the different types of biometric surveillance, how they work, and the potential risks and benefits associated with them. There are tons of resources available online, and even just a basic understanding can empower you to make more informed decisions about your own privacy and security.
And I guess that awareness can lead to action, right?
Right.
Whether it's advocating for stronger privacy laws, demanding transparency from companies that use biometric data, or even just choosing to opt out of certain technologies when possible.
Absolutely. And remember, this is an ongoing conversation. Technology is constantly evolving, and the way we use and regulate it needs to evolve as well. It's up to all of us to stay informed, engaged, and involved in shaping the future of biometric surveillance.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. We've explored the history of surveillance, the potential benefits and risks of biometric technology, and the ethical questions that arise as this technology becomes more and more integrated into our lives.
And perhaps most importantly, we've highlighted the fact that the future isn't predetermined. We have a voice, and we can use it to shape the world we want to live in.
So to wrap things up, we'll leave you with this final thought. Imagine a world with perfect biometric surveillance. What does that look like to you? What are the positives, and what are the potential downsides? We encourage you to keep exploring this topic and share your thoughts and ideas with us online. This conversation is far from over, and your voice matters. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.